What would you do if the person you helped in a moment of kindness turned out to hold the key to your salvation? In the heart of a fading industrial town, where the streets hummed with the ghosts of better days, Tom Harper ran a diner that was barely clinging to life. The neon sign flickered, the booths creaked, and the coffee was more habit than pleasure for the handful of regulars. Tom, a man in his mid-40s with calloused hands and a heart too stubborn to quit, poured every ounce of himself into keeping Harper's Diner alive. It was his father's legacy, a place where memories were served alongside greasy burgers and pie. But the bills piled higher than the pancakes, and foreclosure loomed like a storm cloud. Every morning, Tom unlocked the diner at dawn, the weight of the day already pressing on his shoulders. He'd smile at his three employees: Lila, the sharp-tongued waitress; Marco, the cook with dreams bigger than the kitchen; and Jenny, the teenage dishwasher who called Tom Pops, despite no blood between them. They were a makeshift family, bound by loyalty and the diner's stubborn refusal to die. But loyalty didn't pay the bank, and Tom's savings were a whisper of what they once were. One rainy evening, as the diner sat nearly empty, an elderly woman shuffled through the door. Her coat was threadbare, her silver hair tangled, and her eyes carried a quiet sorrow. She ordered a single cup of coffee, her hands trembling as she counted out coins. Tom watched her from behind the counter, something tugging at his chest. "On the house," he said softly, sliding a slice of apple pie her way. Her name, she said, was Eleanor, and her faint smile was worth more than the tip she couldn't afford. Over the next week, Eleanor became a regular, always ordering coffee, always alone. Tom never charged her, though he couldn't explain why. Maybe it was the way her eyes reminded him of his late mother, or maybe he just needed to believe kindness still mattered. Then came the twist. One night, as Tom scrubbed the counter, a young man in a crisp suit stormed in, his face a mix of urgency and irritation. "You Tom Harper?" he demanded. Tom nodded, wary. The man, who introduced himself as Daniel, was Eleanor's grandson. He revealed that Eleanor had been slipping out of their estate, wandering the town in a haze of grief since her husband's death. What Daniel said next hit Tom like a freight train. Eleanor wasn't just any widow, she was Eleanor Grayson, the reclusive matriarch who owned half the city's real estate, including the land under Harper's Diner. Tom's jaw dropped. The woman he'd been feeding for free was worth millions. Daniel's tone softened. "She talks about you, you know. Says you're the only one who's treated her like a person, not a bank account." Tom's mind raced. He hadn't known. He hadn't asked for anything. Days later, Eleanor returned, her usual frailty replaced by a quiet resolve. She handed Tom an envelope, her hand steady now. Inside was a deed her family's company was forgiving the diner's debts and granting him ownership of the property. "You gave me dignity," she said, her voice cracking. "This is my way of giving it back." Tom stood frozen, the weight of the gesture sinking in. The diner, his father's dream, was safe. But it wasn't just about the money. Eleanor's gift was a reminder that kindness, however small, could ripple outward in ways no one could predict. That night, Tom gathered Lila, Marco, and Jenny, sharing the news. They laughed, cried, and dreamed of a future where the diner wasn't just surviving but thriving. For the first time in years, Tom felt hope. The next morning, he opened the diner as always, but something had shifted. The neon sign glowed a little brighter, the coffee tasted a little richer, and the regulars noticed a spark in Tom's eyes. He'd learned that in a world quick to take, giving without expectation could change everything. And somewhere, Eleanor was smiling, knowing she'd found a way to repay a debt no money could measure.